2 solid hours sleep, they said. This has been the pattern of past flights. You doze off and on during the first night and settle down to regular sleep the next night. But they were ready. First for eclipse photography, then a stand-up EVA. Gemini 12 was in good position for the eclipse. The command pilot shot time exposures for later scientific study. The stand-up EVA began over the Canaries. The hatch was open at 19 hours, 29 minutes into the mission. Pilot Aldrin reported that he had only a minor tendency to float upward and had no difficulty in maintaining the position he wished in the open hatch.
Okay, I'm just drifting here. It looks like I have a small tendency to float out the Canary middle. A beautiful view.
There was also preparation for the umbilical EVA of the following day. A portable handrail was installed from spacecraft hatch to the cone of the target docking adapter. It was left in position to be used Sunday. A major portion of this EVA was devoted to star photography, shooting so-called hot stars, much of whose light is in the ultraviolet spectrum. 80% of this is filtered out by the Earth's atmosphere. From Gemini, astronomers can study data unobtainable from the Earth. After 2 hours, 28 minutes, the hatch was closed and the crew was repressurizing their cabin over Canton Island. Jim Lovell reported, "It was a pretty good exercise, and I'm starving to death." The flight director was obliging.
Heat period for you starting at 2300 to 2350.
Sunday morning began rather abruptly, shortly after 3 a.m. by the clocks at Manned Spacecraft Center. Flight Director Krantz woke the crew about an hour and a half early to check out fuel cell operation. He took one bulky stack off the line. The crew was then invited to nap a little longer. Waking up early for one reason or another would be a feature of this flight. But the crew seemed to like keeping a farmer's hours. They declined sleep and went to work, taking another bite out of the 14 experiments of the mission. On the 27th revolution over Carnarvon, a go was given for the umbilical EVA and space work. EVA began over the South Pacific beyond contact with the ground. Mission Control could only wait it out until the spacecraft passed over the States and into tracking range. How was it going? We had restudied work in space for this flight. We replanned our tasks, and it was a last chance for Gemini. But waiting is sometimes a hard job. How was it going? Onboard cameras show us that it was going pretty well indeed. Pilot Aldrin moves out the hatch along the portable handrail, which he had installed during the stand-up EVA the day before. He attaches a tether from the Agena to the spacecraft. That tether would come in for some good use later today. The spacecraft was now passing over the United States, and Mission Control received its first news of what was going on. Buzz Aldrin was at the Agena workstation. While working, he is attached by a waist tether. This gives him a secure position, and he has both hands free for the job. Doctors were counting his heartbeat closely during the work period. So far, it had been pretty much below 120. After finishing up at the Agena workstation, Aldrin makes his way along the handrails to the hatch and a rest period. At this time, he is at the adapter area and has been conducting the EVA for more than 40 minutes. Although we have no onboard film of the adapter work area, the pilot performed 7 tasks there, much as we saw in the underwater simulation. When we next pick up the EVA on film, the astronaut is again at the Agena workstation. He tests the waist tether and comments, "The restraints are good. I don't see any problem in positioning my body at all." The next assignment is use of a torque wrench on a bolt. The same type of job had been performed at the adapter section. The wrench can be set for any value from 50 to 200 inch-pounds. He had performed 19 tasks, 12 at the Agena station, 7 at the adapter. A good EVA work session. Now, like any good workman, the pilot sets about cleaning up his work area. Okay, he said, workstation is clear. As he got back in, Jim Lovell greeted him with, "Okay, here's your seat, Buzz. That's it."
Gemini 12, Houston Capcom, 1 minute to LOS. New EVA record, beautiful job.
That new record was 2 hours, 9 minutes on umbilical EVA. Command Pilot Lovell undocked from his target vehicle 47 hours, 31 minutes from liftoff. He was between stations, between Carnarvon and Canton Island. Command Pilot Lovell is backing off slowly from the target vehicle, pulling on the 100-foot Dacron tether attached to his spacecraft during the umbilical EVA. He will now attempt to extend this tether until it loses all slackness and becomes taut. As expected, that takes a bit of doing at first. The tether whips back and forth and develops loops. But if the command pilot can position these two vehicles on the tether, the one lower as the Agena is, and the other higher as is Gemini 12, there will be a very slight difference in the gravitational pull of the Earth upon the two. Small as it is, this difference may be strong enough to stabilize the spacecraft and the Agena. Now Gemini 12 is in its second daylight pass of this exercise. Jim Lovell has his tether extended and taut. He turns off both spacecraft and Agena control systems. The tether remains taut. The two vehicles move through space, maintaining their positions without use of thrust or fuel, a technique important for future space missions. After 4 hours and 20 minutes, the tether exercise was ended. Command Pilot Lovell jettisoned the tether. The mission had now lasted 51 hours and 51 minutes. It was time for the crew to separate from their target vehicle. They would perform a 6-foot-per-second posigrade maneuver to give them sufficient clearance. Target vehicle and spacecraft went their separate ways, and the crew slept. The next day was Monday, and it began for the crew at 1:15 a.m. over the Rosenaught Victor tracking ship. The crew had a third and final EVA ahead of them. It was a stand-up EVA this time, devoted to ultraviolet photography. But there would also be an opportunity to jettison some excess EVA equipment no longer needed. The hatch was opened at 66 hours, 11 minutes. The pilot took ultraviolet photographs of the sunrise and of selected constellations. After 51 minutes, the hatch was closed, and with it the crew had closed out 3 planned EVAs with remarkable success. Not long after this, Gemini 12 received its flight update for a 60-1 recovery. It would now fly the full 4 days and come down in the primary recovery area in the western Atlantic. Tuesday, the 4th day, began on a familiar note. The crew was awakened early. Flight Director Krantz was checking the fuel cells again, but no major problem. Although the more dramatic segments of flight were behind Gemini 12, the crew was quite busy completing outstanding experiments. A preliminary retrofire time of 94 hours was transmitted to them. Suddenly, a lot of time seemed to have gone by very quickly. 19 months since Virgil Grissom and John Young walked up this ramp, the first crew for the first 2-man spacecraft. It hardly seemed possible. So matter-of-fact it was that Gemini 12 was making its last pass over the Canaries and the last pass of the Gemini program. There were brief words with other old friends: Kino, Nigeria; Tananarive, Carnarvon, Australia;